Welcome to Soleil After Dark, conversations on sex, trauma, and the body. A podcast guided by passionate trauma and sex therapists who talk about the stuff people don't always feel safe talking about. We're here to explore the real-life intersections of sexuality, trauma, healing, intimacy, and the mind-body connection. Our hope is that this podcast feels like a grounded, stigma-free space. One that provides thoughtful conversation, education, and rays of hope and light to those keeping their secrets, fears, memories, and the most intimate parts of their lives hidden in the shadows. This is where the shadows soften, the conversation deepens, and healing begins. Right here.
Welcome back, everyone, to Soleil After Dark, conversations about sex, trauma, and the body. If you are new here, my name is Soleil. I am a therapist here at Soleil and a licensed professional counselor. And if you are not new here, welcome back. We're so excited to have you. I have two lovely and esteemed guests from Soleil also joining me today. I have Stephen.
Hi.
Hi, Stephen.
I'm Stephen. I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor.
And we have Rachel.
Hello, I'm Rachel. I'm a licensed clinical professional counselor, a certified sex therapist, and a certified drug and alcohol counselor.
Wonderful. Thank you both for being here today. I'm very excited about today's topic. It feels like the hot topic of right now, since there's so much going on about this, TV shows, podcasts. We are here to talk about couples therapy.
Yay.
How exciting. Yes, yes, yes. I want to start really broad and maybe even asking a bit more about you, Stephen, about your background in couples work. What kind of training do you have? How did you get into this work? What do you love about it? Generally, tell us about your background with couples.
I started, like the genesis of wanting to become a therapist in the first place was born of irritation at my brother and sister-in-law like nitpicking at each other at a family event. And they were just, and at some point I just stopped them and said, okay, you're doing this, and then he's reacting this way, and then that's setting you off. And like, do you not see this pattern?
Oh,
and she's a social worker, and she was like, that was good. Have you considered this? And no, I hadn't. And it all unfolded from there. I made that my emphasis in my education.
Beautiful.
And I've made that, I've steered my career in that direction. It's been
That's cool.
couples the whole way.
Oh, beautiful. Is there something you love about the work if this has been from the jump?
Yeah, I love love, which sounds really corny, but it's so, I love working with my individual clients. There's so much that's so enriching and rewarding there, but there's something about watching a love story unfold in real time that is just, it's hard to beat in terms of and seeing people like be there for each other. I could gush about this quite a bit, but yeah, short answer, I love love.
Oh, that's so cute, Stephen. That's really beautiful. I love that answer, actually. Not cheesy at all. I think a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about couples, right? Even hearing you talk about the positives of it all, it makes me think about how often people are scared to come in.
Yeah.
Or it's like a mark of a failed relationship, right? There's like something very, still very shameful about going to couples therapy for a lot of folks. Could you tell us who should be going into couples therapy? Who's a good candidate? What couples fit in that space?
I won't go so far as to say everybody, because I try not to stretch it that far. I think there are people who are doing just fine on their own, but generally, basically everybody I think would benefit from it. And so often it's treated as this is the last possible step.
The Hail Mary moment.
Yes. Yeah. And we've tried absolutely everything else. Things are unraveling.
Yeah.
Let's go to couples therapy.
Yeah.
And it's you get better results the sooner you start that process. And it's not shameful to need a hand. Like, loving another person can be hard and complicated, and there's a lot of factors from how you were raised, and did you have positive role models of what a relationship can look like, and all these kinds of things, some of which doesn't come totally naturally. And just going into, even if it's for a checkup, just I've had people who come in we meet for like 3 sessions, and they're like, oh,
yeah.
yeah, we're better off than we thought. Cool. Have a good life.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I've heard people talk about how, like, we know we have body health, right? We go to the doctor, we go to the gym, we do these things. We know we have mental health now, that's more established. There's also relational health, and it almost sounds like you're describing that, right? Come in, get your checkup, let's check on things. It feels like another part of your overall global health is to go and check on your relationships.
Right.
I love that.
And sometimes you get the checkup and all is well. And sometimes there's an area to brush up on. And there's just something you can sharpen. It's an investment in something really important.
Yes. There's something that we do differently here at Soleil, or at least a little bit differently maybe from typical couples therapy. We pull in the sexuality piece since that's a cornerstone of our practice. Could you speak a little bit about how those two intersect, how we work with couples and sexuality in the room, for people that are maybe wondering how that happens? How does this show up? What can we even talk about? How do we pull them together?
Yeah, it's almost a removal of the barrier of this is something so specialized. Like, we can have couples therapy and we can have sex therapy.
Separate.
And for most people, those are intertwined. It's a significant part of many relationships to have the sexual piece in there. So it's a big part of what we try to fold in is a more comprehensive, holistic approach to what are we working on here. Your sexual relationship is a part of the whole of the relationship. We just want to make sure that gets space as well, and then it doesn't have people aren't coming in with a feeling of we have to kind of compartmentalize this. There's our sex life, and then there's how we interact in our friendship and our communication. It's all one big tangled thing. And we try and see that whole picture for what it is.
It feels like not bringing sexuality in, something gets missed.
Yes.
Do you have a thought?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I think there's a lot of research that shows like people want to talk about sex and they want to talk about how it's showing up in their relationship, but they're very afraid of making their therapist feel uncomfortable. So I think part of why we're so upfront about it, we're trained in it, we're, I think putting it out there right away so people know that that's something that they can come in and talk about with us.
That's a great point, because I do find certain couples I work with that we're not maybe starting with sex being a topic that's feeling upfront. Down the line, as things start to feel like we're addressing whatever they originally came in with, I will always mention it as like a reminder. And I very rarely find people steering away. I actually find that people are usually like, oh wait, yes, I would like to talk about that. But there's a bit of like a need for invitation. So that makes a lot of sense what's going on for folks. I wanted to identify something a little bit, it's slightly to the left of the sexuality piece, but it's also relationship and attachment dynamics, which feel very present when you're working with couples, sexuality, intersection. I'm wondering if you could share a little bit about the most common dynamics, relationship dynamics that you see coming in for folks that are listening, so that they could maybe see if they relate at all to what you're describing. What are some of the common dynamics?
Dynamics is a good word for it, I think, because there's the content, which is all over the place. There's the stories. Everyone is going to have a totally unique story and culture and co-created culture and all these really complicated things. I work from, in part, emotion-focused therapy, which I'm a big fan of that research and that theory. And one of the things I love about that is it zooms in a lot on the dynamics, and it strips away a lot of the more surface level content and gets into what is happening here and how are both of you responding to that. So there's attachment theory is a whole thing in the world, which we could talk for an entire podcast about that, but like elevator pitch version, it is the fundamental need that we have for reliable security in another person. And that's a huge thing that comes up in relationships. And when that isn't satisfied, it flares up. And basically there are two directions that can go, approach or withdraw.
Oh,
so easy. Like I have a need to be met.
Yep.
I want to go forth and meet that need, is approach. And withdraw is more like, ooh, this feels risky and I don't want to push it. I don't want to threaten that. So I'm going to kind of lock things down. And when you look at those two kind of hyper simplified dynamics, it can only really play out in three ways, which is just math.
Truly.
Like approach, approach, withdraw, withdraw. And when you look at all these incredibly complicated things happening in a relationship, you can almost always boil it down to, oh, you're in approach. You're like fighting all the time. You're bickering. And when that starts to feel too intense or threatening, someone wants to protect that so that they withdraw. And then once this person gets burned out of the approach, then they'll withdraw as well. That can look kind of like frosty, distant.
We just don't talk about things.
Yes, but like dynamic wise, you can boil so much down into those pretty simple three categories.
I think it's really helpful to hear it pared down so much, right? Because it allows these huge topics that can feel so intense for people and can make it really understandable, digestible. Where I think before things can feel really big and unapproachable. Something that's also interesting about it is it makes me think a little bit about how, I know we have had a conversation about the body, the nervous system. It makes me think a little bit about how the nervous system plays into conflict, because you're talking about protect, safety, maybe I have to do this to keep myself safe. Could you guys get a little bit into, maybe let's pull the nervous system and the body in.
Sure.
How does that come into these dynamics or into conflict in general? How is that playing a role? What's that doing in there?
Yeah, the research shows basically once your heartbeat gets over 100 beats per minute, you've crossed a line. Your nervous system is lit up.
Interesting.
You're in that fight, flight, freeze state, and you're gonna sort of retreat from this beautiful forebrain that's full of love and humor and patience and all these and then you're gonna retreat back into this primitive kind of brain that is just going to try and caveman its way through the encounter. And so knowing that that's happening in the nervous system and acknowledging the reality of it helps, I think, recontextualize this. No, we have to push through. We have to keep going until we reach a conclusion, no matter how bad we feel. It's so much harder when you've reached that flooded state. Once you've crossed over, the nervous system has to be tended to in order to have productive repair, communication, connection, all those beautiful things that we want. So like knowing what's going on there, being able to recognize it makes it so much easier.
Do you find, I'm thinking a little bit about the dynamics you were just painting, right? This like withdraw, avoid, this pursue. Do you find, are there certain nervous system regulations that feel very tied to these dynamic pieces, or is it kind of mix and match depending on the person?
Yeah, I mean, when you look at that, like approach is almost always fight. And withdraw is almost always flight or freeze. But all of these are kind of born of that nervous system. That the attachment stuff feels threatened and it flares up and we react to that because having a secure connection is just so fundamentally important to us as human beings.
I think it was in the first episode we were talking about shame with you, Rachel, and you had mentioned how it is, despite feeling not good, is really pro-social, right? It's about the fear of losing connection, attachment. And I'm thinking about that as you talk through this. Do you feel like, are there other emotions that you think you really see send people into this fight, flight, freeze?
And I think it's very unique because I think when we talk about attachment theory, I think the nervous system is always taking in information, what's safe, what isn't safe. And when we talk about when we develop the anxious attachment avoidant,
Yes.
disorganized, I think that you're learning how to be safe in relationship. So I think even as little babies, they're mirroring and they're looking to our bodies to see how we're responding to them, how we're picking up on their cues, and they're developing their nervous system in response to that, to the world. So I think as an adult sitting on a couch with your partner, your nervous system is also communicating things that it learned all the way back. Yeah. So I think that's where it's interesting too, because I think our nervous systems are always communicating. Even now, like my nervous system is feeding off of yours. And I think there's a level that is conscious and there's a level that's unconscious. So we talk about shame, I think there's a lot of these unconscious like signals that the nervous system is giving about like, do I feel safe or not? And I think what's beautiful about couples too is bringing in language to also have your partner understand what your nervous system experience is can be just profoundly connective and illuminating.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Yeah, it's not a perfect system too, because the signals we can read, if someone's withdrawing, it can look like, oh, you don't care.
Yes,
and it's so frequently it's the exact opposite. You're icing me out. You don't seem to care about me. I'm getting this signal that you don't love me.
Yes.
When in fact, the entire purpose of the withdrawal is I value this relationship so much that I have to lock it down because I don't feel safe moving forward, because it feels potentially destructive.
Yes.
So this misreading of those nervous system signals is so often what gets people firing off of each other back and forth and missing what's actually happening, which a lot of the time is just like flailing, trying desperately to protect the love and security.
Oh, wow. It does always make me come back to why it's so important to bring the body into the space, because if we weren't addressing that, we would just be looking at what? Communication skills, you know what I mean? Like we give people a script to follow, but we're not getting to this more foundational thing. Do you find in your work, right, we've talked about why pulling sexuality in is important. What feels, it might be kind of what we're saying, but I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit to what feels important about bringing the body in too, or the nervous system, right?
It's a whole other critical layer to be able to know what's happening there. We've talked in previous podcasts, like the top down, the bottom up. And staying too much in that top down, you can kind of get bogged down in narratives or in flawed perception of what's going on there. Getting tapped into your own experience and then being able to communicate that effectively helps get everybody lined up and understanding what we're both going through and what's happening in that moment, and making it more of an accurate read.
Wow, that feels so necessary for the work. That's really cool. While we're thinking about the sexual functioning piece in couples work, I did want to ask a little bit more about desire discrepancy specifically, because it is such a huge thing that we see. It's such a stigmatized experience despite being so common. I want to start really broadly, maybe like fast definitional, like what is this? And then I'd love to learn a little bit about maybe how you two each understand what's actually happening there, rather than this highly personalized, oh my God, relationship failing thing that we think that it is. So first and foremost, if someone has no idea what desire discrepancy is, what does it mean? What are we talking about?
It's well named.
Yes.
It's a discrepancy, a gap in a way that creates friction in between the desire levels for sexuality in the relationship between partners. So the discrepancy is the issue. Where a lot of people get stuck and kind of tripped up is they come in with a preconceived judgment of, well, your libido is too high, so we have to bring that down. Your libido is the problem because it's so high, or your libido is too low and we have to fix that because it's supposed to be these things. Shame gets in the mix and all these like presuppositions. But that's...
Is it always frequency, right? High, low, more or less. Is it ever, I know we work a lot with kink, right? We see a lot of that. Does that also feel like it falls under the umbrella of desire discrepancy to y'all?
I would say difference in desire style more so.
Very helpful, yeah.
Because it's, I think, very similar themes. I don't know that I would put that in the same exact category as desire discrepancy, but just like a lot of the approach is going to be very similar though.
Yes.
Because it's all right, here's this thing. What do we do about it?
Yeah.
How do we reconcile this?
Yes. When you do see a couple who is coming in and one person wants sex more frequently, one person wants sex less frequently, where do you start? Is there like a starting place that you find that you routinely find yourself coming back to in your couples work?
Yeah, I almost always start with assessing their definition of like what is sex to you, what is intimacy.
That's a great question.
And why do we care about this? What does this mean? Because so frequently there's just this like, it's important because it's important. Okay, let's dig that up, because the work is about approaching that kind of everything breaks down to change or acceptance.
Right.
That's all we can do about everything. So it's about assessing like, what does this mean to you?
Yeah.
Why? And frequently it's an opportunity for connection. Yeah. It's an opportunity to feel desired and wanted. Yeah. It's sometimes the only opportunity in a relationship to have like softness and vulnerability. And when you tease these things out, you can get a more three-dimensional picture of like, what are we exploring here? Yeah. And expanding that definition and understanding. And then that can free up some more flexibility. Where is there flexibility?
I love
we
that.
don't have Coke. Is Pepsi okay?
Yes.
Like, what kind of form of intimacy could we do to scratch some of these itches and maybe take the pressure off a little bit and see, where can we meet in the middle if that's possible?
Oh, I love that. I love the question about defining it, because so often I think couples come in and sex is shorthand for penetration, especially a lot of my straight couples. And so to broaden that feels really powerful. And then to find the meaning, because I don't know if I've ever actually, when I've gotten down to brass tacks with couples, I don't know if I've ever met someone who it was truly about genital feel good. Like it's always something a lot deeper and a lot more meaningful, which can maybe also destigmatize sex a lot too, from this like, very often it's like this shallow thing in our culture to it becomes very meaningful in relationships. Oh, how interesting. Once you're working with a couple that's seeing a desire discrepancy, does the nervous system come into play there at all? Are you guys finding that that's coming up in that work? You had a big reaction to that.
Yeah, I think I love to do assessment through the dual control model, which does look at the nervous system and how the nervous system reacts. Really what we're looking at, we call it the gas or the brakes. Like what is going to hit the gas on desire, on arousal, which are different, and what is going to hit the brakes. Yeah. I think everyone has a really unique system. Like some people have really heavy brakes that we have to figure out, like, how do we ease up on those? Sometimes people have really strong accelerators. So I think we often in desire discrepancies will see people with two very different patterns. And I think how that interacts with the nervous system becomes really important. Like, is a brake throwing somebody into dissociation, into fight, into freeze, into flight? Or are they kind of living in this space where they don't have a lot of those? They don't really understand their partner's experience of having like a quick turn off. Where sometimes the body just leaves that experience and we're done. Or we need to shift, or we need to pause or change, So I think I love to kind of assess those unique gas and brakes.
Oh, I love that. Yes. That is a Come As You Are, Emily Nagoski reference, which a phenomenal book if people are interested in learning more. I want to pivot to something a bit broader. Okay. We were talking prior to starting our filming about how there's so much stigma and there's so much misinformation around relationships and love, and especially long-term relationships I've heard you mention. I would love to ask both of you, what is a myth or something that you would love to have people throw out that they maybe previously believe about relationships? If there was one that you feel like you see the most often.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
I think one that I would love to push back against is the mindset that one person has to be your everything.
Yeah,
that you should be able to have every single need met. That one person should be able to be your entire social circle, your personal therapist, your passionate sexual partner, and all these different things.
Yeah.
And being able to expand that perspective to let it be okay to need other people and community, it takes some of that pressure and strain off of this has to be everything or it's broken. And just like go spend some time with friends and meet those needs broadly.
Oh, I love that. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Rachel, what about you?
Yeah, I think for me, it's how much sex you're having is not the barometer of the health of the relationship.
Yes.
I think sex is a piece of relationships, but I often hear like, I need this frequency, or, and I think there's like a real relationship instability happens kind of if those things aren't present. But I think sex is just a piece of the bigger picture. And sometimes it's not a piece at all.
Yes.
And I think that's important to acknowledge too.
Yeah.
You did kind of steal part of mine, or I'm stealing part of yours. I was thinking about how there's so much more choice than we realize.
Yes.
Yeah.
To your point about setting the definition, right? Or broadening the definition. I think I see people very often come in and believe that, like, especially for lower libido partners, there's just we have to increase this. That's the only option. And giving people the space, especially in desire discrepancy, to say, well, do you even want more? And what do you want it to look like? I see some people really have that thought for the first time sometimes. And so that feels like a thing I would love to put in the trash. Is like, you have choice. There's not a one size fits all thing to that. Oh, very cool. I am thinking about all the conversations we've gotten to have. If people have been lucky enough to tune into all of them, I highly recommend. But I'm thinking broadly about how we've talked about sexuality, we've talked about somatic and body work, and we are now talking about relationships, right? And we're obviously talking about romantic relationships, but I imagine some of this applies to any kind of interpersonal dynamic, friendships, familial.
Yeah.
It feels like across the board, there is this network that all works together, right? There's no one thing that we have talked about on our podcast that is disconnected from everything else. And so to wrap, as our maybe final thing, I'm wondering if someone wanted to start to really explore all of this all together, is therapy the place? Do you find, is there any place that they could go outside of therapy that really starts to pull some of these threads? Where could people go if they want to learn more and start to really put this whole thing together?
I think there are a lot of good resources. We talked about the book Come As You Are.
Great one.
I'm a big fan of, I mentioned EFT earlier.
Yeah.
Hold Me Tight is a wonderful book. The Gottmans are big relationship researchers, and they have another good one, The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. Although I will say a lot of these things are more a piece of the equation that focuses on a part of it. I think couples therapy is kind of the place to take a lot of these things.
That's awesome.
And ideally fuse all of them together into the broader picture. Each one is going to get you a piece of the whole.
Beautiful.
But yeah, hopefully therapy is the place to make the magic happen.
Is there a kind of therapy people should be on the lookout for as they maybe start to research things to look for, specialties or modalities that you feel like you would want people to find in their therapist bios?
Yeah, I think Gottman, EFT are the two that I'm a big fan of.
Right.
I think I just touched my microphone. Gottman and EFT, I'm a big fan of those. But also, one of the things I love about Soleil here is just our branding as a sex therapy informed practice.
Right.
Bakes that into everything. You're talking about the awkwardness or that discomfort. I think there is having that out there,
Yeah.
like in some way that like sex therapy is acknowledged, it's okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully that will help ease that transition into like, it's okay for me to talk about. I don't have to be so nervous, and hopefully there will be a very welcoming therapist to invite that conversation.
That's awesome. That's very helpful. All right, y'all. Thank you both. You're wonderful brains and wonderful people.
Thank you.
I love to end these with a ray of light. So this could be a sentiment of hope, encouragement, something you want people to take away. Stephen, what do you hope people leave listening to this podcast with today?
It's okay for love to be hard sometimes, because important things require work. And it's okay for something to not always be easy. It's okay to need some help and support if you feel stuck, and love is worth it.
Beautiful. Well, thank you both. Thank you, everyone listening.
Thanks, Coley.
If you would like to learn more, if you would like to reach out to work with any of our wonderful therapists, please feel free to reach out to us and get you on the right path. Have a wonderful day.
Quick reminder before you go. This podcast is for education and general information. It isn't therapy, and it's not a substitute for personalized mental health or medical care. We're therapists, but we can't offer individual advice through a podcast. So take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and if you're dealing with something tender or intense, we really encourage you to connect with a licensed professional who can support you personally.